Hello, St. Mary's. I am here on the floor right in the center aisle of the church because when you come into church on Sunday, you'll notice something new right front and center in the church. Actually, it's not something new. It's something that is old, that has been restored, but newly placed in the church. Last week, John Amrine finished a project I asked him to take on of saving and restoring the children's altar from Tarpley House. As I mentioned earlier this week in a note to you along with the wardens, we'll be closing Tarpley at the end of the month for safety reasons, but we want to save those things that are of historic importance or of sentimental value from that building. My understanding is that this children's altar was used for some time as a part of the education of the children of St. Mary's and the importance of the sacramental life in the ways of Episcopal worship. But in the last few years, the altar had fallen into disrepair, and just trying to move it nearly caused collapse. It was literally coming unglued at the sides. Getting it out of Tarpley was only the first step in saving it. John took this on as a project and as a gift to the church, one for which I'm extremely thankful. John lovingly shored it up, added a new top with beautiful wood inlays, painted part of it, stained others. He added casters so that we can have this altar in various places of the church. It can be moved easily. It might be an altar of repose for Maundy Thursday, for example. This altar also meets what I see as a need for St. Mary's in making our church's worship space more flexible and intimate. The Church of St. Mary is lovely. There's no doubt about that. But its architecture is of a particular time and place. And this means that the church is long, quite long and narrow, with a significant distance between the high altar and even the first pews of the congregation, much less the middle or back pews. This layout makes more sense when there is a large congregation with a full choir present. You can imagine Christmas Eves or Easter Sundays of old. But even then, the distance between the priest at the high altar and the people can subtly communicate a distance between God and God's people, as the sacrament is consecrated at a distance. Nothing is wrong with that because it reminds us of the holiness of God. But we do lose some of the intimacy, the closeness of God. Many other churches have struggled with this, and they've opted for a variety of approaches. Some have placed a table closer to the people. Some have even moved their altars all the way out into the center of the church and moved the chairs around it. The Cathedral of St. James, St. Mark's in Evanston, Church of the Atonement in Chicago, All Saints in Chicago. These are just a few churches that have struggled with this, and they've taken different approaches, retaining a high altar at some distance from the people, but bringing a movable or temporary altar closer to the people. So what you'll see this Sunday isn't a permanent change. Think of it more as an experiment. The children's altar will be at the crossing close to the people through the month of September. At the end of the month, I'll invite feedback, asking whether it changes the feel of the service for you and whether that's a good thing or not. It may not be. And I don't imagine that this is the setup for every service for the rest of our time. That's not what we're doing here. In those high seasons like Advent or Lent, it may make more liturgical sense, more aesthetic sense to use the big, beautiful high altar. We'll also use the high altar every Wednesday for our midweek Rite One Mass. Now, you don't have to wait till the end of the 4-week experiment. You can tell me right now whether you love it, whether you hate it, or whether you're ambivalent to it. It won't hurt my feelings. It'll open up conversation. But you can be assured that I'm going to ask you why, because that's what I care about. Why do we think and do and feel the way that we think and do and feel about our worship of God? What are we learning about God, about ourselves, about our community, about the way worship shapes us when we change this one thing or that one thing? But this Sunday, I hope you'll join me at this altar as we remember the ways in which God has saved us, the ways in which God is always coming to us, both in the sacraments and in our lives. And I hope as we gather around this altar, we can also remember all those children who have gathered around this altar in the past. Give thanks for them, and give thanks for those who formed them and taught them around the altar of God. I hope to see you on Sunday at 9 a.m. as we go unto the altar of God together. Peace, friends. We'll see you in church.